Online safety, something that I'm 48, never had to even think about it. Wasn't even an issue for my parents, just pie in the sky, not even a thought. Online safety. Well, now it's become a major issue because among many of the things that we talk about here on the morning program, we have to bring in the whole gamut of issues that the internet has created for our world, us as parents and our kids, purely because of things like cyber crime. We've heard about scams that are enacted out on people. It goes on and on. It's a whole industry of crime and abuse that can take place just using the internet. A person who has been involved with this at the coalface, if you like, as a police officer is Paul Litherland. He's now out of the police service after 20 years, and he started a business called Surf Online Safe, and it looks at all these issues that perhaps we parents might need to get on top of. Thanks for your time, Paul.
Thanks, Gary.
All right, I'm going to start you with a sort of personal situation. So my son's got an iPad. He's got an iPad mini. He's not crazy on it. He's not on it all the time. I don't have to scream at him and get him off it. That's one thing. But he goes into his bedroom and he jumps on it to play a game or something. I got no idea really what he's doing in his room. Should I, as a parent, be nosy enough from time to time to pick up his iPad when he's not there and search his history and see where he's been and what he's done?
Oh, the million-dollar question, Gary. I mean, I give presentations to a number of schools, and you'll have 50% of parents in the room go, no, don't do that. It's an invasion of privacy. Yet the other group will go, well, you need to put those rules in place or those restrictions in place. As a parent of a teenager myself, I'd probably, along your lines, the fact that, okay, I want to have a look, find out what they may have been up to and what they're looking at, what they're searching. So it's one of those questions where it's actually very difficult to answer. More importantly, I suppose we're going along the lines of trust and communication with your kids. If you've got a good rapport with your kids, then you're going to find it a lot easier to sort of give them those restrictions and let them know. The best point, I suppose, would be communication. Is speak to them. Okay, I can find this sort of stuff out. Even if I don't need the device to do that, I can jump on my modem or my router, or I can look at the logging history through that to find out what you've been up to, and let them know that, okay, I'm trusting you enough to do the right thing, but if you are doing the wrong thing, there's a good chance that might come and bite you on the backside.
This will sound a bit silly, but I'm almost reluctant to say to him, mate, you've got the internet on that iPad. Now, that can take you to anything that you care to search, and I'm going to sow the seed. So I've been reluctant to do it. And it's tricky because let's make no bones about it. The internet and what's available through Google searches, through YouTube, you don't want your kids seeing some of that stuff or lots of that stuff.
And that's the biggest problem and the highest fear of a number of parents is you can put in even such basic search terms into, I use Google as an example, and you really don't know what you're getting, even as an adult, even myself as someone who's in the industry, you don't really know what you're going to get. So it's very hard. And again, especially with teenage kids, you mentioned, in the room. I'd say, well, okay, I'm happy for you to have the device in the room, but we don't have the door closed. We're getting a lot of teenagers now taking iPads into the bathroom when they're showering and stuff to listen to music. Yeah. So nah, sorry. Well, if you want to do that, then you're disconnected from the internet while you're doing that. So again, okay, I'll give you a little bit of rope, but you're still young.
Yeah.
You're still not
under my roof type thing.
You're still not fully aware of exactly what I know and what I see. And kids will go, but you worry too much, Dad, or worry too much, Mum. Well, that's my right as a parent. So again, you're putting the onus back on the kids to say, okay, I'm giving you a little bit of rope, but I'm not going to let you jump off and hang yourself. Just take it easy first. All
right, okay. 92211882, by the way. If you've got something that's happening in your house or just issues you want to raise with Paul, feel free to call through 92211882. Of course, once they hit the age of 18, then that's it. They're out of your hands and they can do what they like on the internet. Without exaggerating it, how dangerous is the internet and where it can take predators who will exploit it?
The biggest thing in the modern age is the availability of the internet for people to go anywhere around the world and do what they want to do. One of the big questions I get on a regular basis is, are there more predators out there? And in my opinion, there aren't. There's a lot more opportunity for people to interact with teens. If adults want to interact with teens, there's a lot more availability for them to do that. But the biggest issue is how someone, as an example, an online predator can be sitting in Germany.
Yep.
He can go. He doesn't need to now. He's not confined to his local park. He can jump online and he can go anywhere around the world. Not only can he do that, but now he's also got the advantage of anonymity. He's also got the advantage of, I can chat up a young girl in Perth, Western Australia, and there's really no legislative concern there. He knows that a WA police officer is not going to jump on a plane and fly over over to Germany and charge him. Unless, of course, it's quite a massive issue to put this particular offender.
If there's a network or something, yep.
So this is the biggest issue, is the availability. And I use us as examples, Gary. When we were kids, there was that stereotypical view of the bloke down at the park in his trench coat handing out lollies, don't go near him.
Yep.
He was really only confined to his own local area. And he may even travel, depending on what kind of life he led, but he was still confined. The problem with the internet now is you can go anywhere. And this is where our kids are sort of getting caught out, especially with trust issues. Well, I'm looking at a photo or I'm looking at a video, I'm just assuming that it's someone local because they've told me that. It might not necessarily be.
So is that a conversation you absolutely have to have?
Yeah, you have to.
And just be blunt about it. There are people out there
Yeah.
that, mentally, they get their jollies off because they're talking to you supposedly on a one-on-one teenage basis,
And
when really it could be a sort of 45-year-old bloke in his undies in Germany.
That's right, and not at 14 or 15 years of age. You've got to be having these conversations at 10, and it's only a couple of years...
Male and female?
Yeah, male and female. A couple of years ago, I never would have thought I'd probably need to get into primary schools, but now kids are getting on iPads in year 5 and year 6, and they're going online, they're going into chat rooms, kids' chat rooms, of course, but where there's kids hanging around, of course, there's going to be adults who are attracted to that. So you've got to start, and it's horrible to explain that to a child who's only 10 or 11 years of age, that there are adults out there who want to interact with you. They might see you with pictures without your clothes on, and it's hard to try and explain that to very young children. It is.
I bet it is. Okay, the biggest place that kids do tend to go to is YouTube.
Yep.
And that is just, it's beyond trying to sort of say what you can and can't see on YouTube. And I know that one of our co-hosts here, Basil Zemplis, who does the breakfast program, he's got a kid that's very iPad savvy at the age of 4 or 5. And, from a parent's point of view, you can't imagine that a 4 and 5-year-old could stumble onto something that might be X-rated or pornographic in some way, or something even more gruesome. You can't imagine that could happen. Is there any way that they could control what they see on YouTube easier?
You can put filters on your device. You can. The big thing about YouTube is it runs through so many different URLs or links, so you can't block the site itself because there's so much happening on it, and it's still a very informative site for kids. So you can look at anything that is still going to be instructional and stuff like that. I understand where Baz is coming from. So the benefit we have is only just this morning, actually, or yesterday, YouTube or Google have introduced YouTube for Kids.
Righto.
So this is an opportunity for parents who have probably the younger kids who like doing the YouTube searching, just sitting there watching the videos all night, that, okay, you can point them to this site, which is moderated quite well. Yeah. And more importantly, it's run and moderated by adults, by parents of kids. YouTube, the whole site itself, is not a bad site. Okay, it is moderated quite well, but every now and again, just because of the massive amount of videos that are being uploaded every day, there's something like 2.5 million visits per day just in this country alone to YouTube. So it's massive. But obviously, every now and again, some videos will slip through that haven't been. So this
kids YouTube effectively, and you can just replace the app that might be on the iPad with this kids one, and therefore you've got a bit more peace of mind.
And kids can YouTube away to their heart's content. Obviously, again, this still needs to be moderated by parents and keep an eye on and make sure that it's important that parents don't just assume that if something says it's kid safe, that they can go, I can't leave them in the corner now and I don't have to worry about them. There's still a necessity there to monitor, keep an eye on them and make sure that they're not just randomly or running amok as such.
Romance scams. Now, we spend a bit of time on this one as well because, look, Paul, to be blunt, it seems that no matter how many warnings go out there, there's still millions and millions of dollars going offshore from Perth to support something completely fictitious, something fabricated, something that exploits their emotions, and people are still prepared to get sucked into it.
People are still falling for it because a lot of them are becoming much more advanced, much more serious. In the past, Gary, when we first had the romance scams introduced into Australia, they'd be very basic. There'd be language skill problems, there'd be communication issues. So they'd know that the person they were probably attracting or would respond may not have been of a high socio-economic sort of background, so they were getting people quite easily. But now they've identified that with the right language, with the right approach, even with stuff like false passport information and all that sort of stuff, they can really get a whole wide range of our demographic in Australia. So people in the past, and I've had victims where they've said, I never would have thought it would be me, but they seem so legitimate, they seem so real, so truthful. I was speaking to them on video. We'd had a relationship for 6 months, a year. But then when you look at the other side of it, where you'd be dealing with the offenders, you'd get mobile phones and he'd have 20 different types of ringtone on his phone, so that when that person rang them, rather than having, say, a ringtone, it'd go, this is Mary Smith, she lives in Australia, this is the scam you're doing. So he knew as soon as he picked up and answered that call, straight away he'd remember who he's ripping off. And it's massive. It's massive in this country, all around the world.
And it's also people that are getting into offshore investment programs. You're telling me the story of a guy that no matter how much money he'd sent, and it was in the... How much he thought he invested?
Thought he was receiving millions of dollars as a result of an investment overseas, and he'd spent about $150,000 in order to get that investment over. And we're not talking over a short period; we're talking over 10 years here. So, trying to convince him that it was a scam was quite difficult, and it's again because they're getting more and more advanced. They're almost like a business. Well, they are. They are a business. I mean, Interpol have kicked indoors in Nigeria and parts of India and Pakistan where there's a room full of 200 people, all on laptops, all on mobile phones, 24/7. So it's massive. It's a massive industry. And I was saying to your producer, gone are the days where you'd walk into a bank teller and stick a gun in their face. with the right experience and know-how, and I don't want to convince any of your listeners, but
to try it, no.
To jump online, and it's a billion-dollar industry, and unfortunately, we're trying to fight this battle. We're doing okay, but it's
but something new pops
massive.
up all the time.
Yeah.
And all right, here's a big one for you. This is something that the producers and other people call me a fuddy-duddy over. Has the internet been good for us? Has the internet been a great thing for humanity, given the amount of crap that comes with it?
Yes, I think it has. And I use the analogy of the motor vehicle as well. Okay, the car has been brilliant for the world population. However, there's still crashes. There's still people who drive cars like idiots. And that's the same with the internet. There's people who build cars to manipulate speed. They want to go as fast as they can. So the internet, I mean, it's been around since 1994. So I think it's one of the greatest inventions in the world, especially with social networking and networking in general. It's brilliant. I wish I'd thought of it.
Yeah, sure. But we wouldn't be sitting here having this conversation.
No, I think it's great. But like anything, Gary, there's always going to be someone who's going to manipulate a great thing to their benefit. Yeah,
I mean, we were just having a chat, folks, about this bizarre, and this is one of the things I hate about the way that the social media is taken hold, and that's the idea that you have friends on Facebook, and these are friends, as you well know from your policing experience, that these people don't even know them, but they're prepared to tag them as a friend. And as you know, that friend can be very much their enemy.
Yeah. And it's different from most of your listeners as well, Gary, is the fact that adults, if we're approached online by someone, we're very cautious. If someone tries to link in to us on LinkedIn or contact us on Facebook or whatever, we're naturally very cautious as adults. We go, who is he? We'll have a look who they are first, find out what we can about them, and if they were okay with it, we'll accept them as a friends. But our teens aren't doing that. What our teens are doing is they're going, okay, let's accept as many people into our world as we can.
Because it looks great on the profile list. Yeah.
If they give us the poops or they annoy us, then we'll have a look at them, and if we think they're going to cause us any more grief, we'll kick them off our networking. Whereas you could sit there, you could sneak into someone's Facebook account as an adult, looking at a teenager. You could sneak in, you could basically sit there, not say a word to them, and it's very unlikely that you'll interact. But now you've opened, or they've opened their entire world to you, where they go to school, where they play sport, where they live to a degree. Some of the kids are posting their phone numbers, so you've got so much information about an individual. It's very scary and it's very risky, especially for the parents of young kids who are now progressing into that world.
Because the first thing you tell your kids about is stranger danger. If someone walks up to you in the street and says, I want to be your friend, you're going to, the instruction is scream, run, yell mum or dad.
Yep. And
but
you
on
do
the internet,
you say that to the kids. You'll go, when you give presentations to the kids, if I saw a number of you walking to school this morning, if I pulled up next to you in my car, none of you know me, and I opened my door and said, jump in, let's go have a chat, would you do that? And the kids go, no, of course not. But they're not seeing that reflection on their online world because they believe it's a different entity altogether. And this is where you try to communicate with them. This is what it's all about. Education is saying, no, they're married together. Your online world is your real world. So you've got to start taking caution there as you would in the real world.
Well, accept what you're prepared to put up there that could be used in some way, shape or form. And I've given an analogy here as a journalist about what online and what social media has done for the journalism industry, and I'll give one clear example, and you'd know about this being a police officer. Journalists, when there's been a tragedy in someone's life, it might have been a car crash, and a 16-year-old or 3 kids have been killed in a car crash. Once upon a time, you'd be in a newsroom and it would be, who's going to go and knock on the door of the family? Who's going to ask if they're prepared to talk? Who's going to ask if they're prepared to give us a photograph for tonight's news or tomorrow's newspaper? And it was a horrible... I mean, I used to hate them, the death knock. Sometimes you'd even sort of couldn't bring yourself to do it. What you'd call knock on the grass. You wouldn't even go to the front door because of that whole feeling of having to go to someone who's lost someone. These days, you just go straight to the Facebook pages.
People are living online,
and their life's there. Their photos are there. All their friends are there, and and then that gets published in some way, and then there's this sort of shock about how did they know that? How did you get that photograph? Well.
And see, this is where it's difficult for a number of kids, especially the early teens, to make that transition to go, okay, I believe I'm posting publicly on Facebook, but that's just my mates. They're the only ones who can see it. But they need to get outside of that circle or outside of that square and go, okay, no, anyone can see it, especially Facebook. I use Facebook a lot because it's the largest social networking system out there. I mean, there's 25 million accounts in Australia alone, and I don't think there's actually that many people in the country.
No.
So it's a huge resource. And as you said it yourself, especially as a journo, okay, if you want to find out information about someone, just jump on Facebook. You can find out so much because our kids are so
embraced
to share it.
And yet we're having a debate about our privacy on a federal level because of counter-terrorism. We're having this debate about, how much privacy? Are you kidding, people? The horse has well and truly bolted. We have so embraced the internet and every method of payment and every social media site, and we want to talk about our privacy now? Too late. That's my view. Paul, it's been a pleasure talking to you. We will talk again on some of these issues as they surface from time to time. And good luck with Surf Online Safe. And if there's anything that you need to warn our people about, our listeners, feel free to come on the program.
Thanks, Gary, and thanks very much to your listeners.
Good luck with it. It is surfonlinesafe.com.au. If you've been sort of listening there and you didn't want to raise it on the radio, surfonlinesafe.com.au is perhaps one way to help you out.